All right, everybody. How are we doing today? Welcome back to another episode of the Robbie Basel Show. Today is February 6th, 2023. Sorry if my 2024, excuse me. Sorry if my voice sounds a little different. My throat is a little bit sore today. But we still have to put out a video. You know how the deal by now. Every Tuesday and Friday, right here for the Robbie Basel Show. And make sure to check out tomorrow for the new episode of Into the Stands, which will be breaking down the full Super Bowl, as well as I will hopefully be bringing in a guest to break down the Super Bowl for this channel on Friday. So make sure to check out Friday's episode. Or better that to put it better, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on those post notifications so you guys don't miss an upload. See, I'm getting better at this YouTube stuff. It only took me 71 episodes, 71 plus episodes at this point to get to that point, but a lot of varying topics to talk about today. And I'm just going to get straight to the chase. We're going to start off with, I think, the biggest news of the end of last week, which is Kylian Mbappe has or is rumored to be signing on a free transfer to Real Madrid. Now, when I heard about this, I knew. So, for one, we all knew this was possible. We all knew that the whole idea of Mbappe moving was possible. And it might have happened, and it also might not happen. Let me explain. I know that sounds very, very confusing. I'll put it simple. Kylian Mbappe is going to try and do his best to get to Real Madrid. Real Madrid could eventually. We'll talk about what they could look like if the deal gets done. But let me explain where the situation is at. We heard of the move that it's going to be possible or very likely that Mbappe goes to Real Madrid. And people were wondering, well, why hasn't some of the main reporters talked about this? The issue right now with Mbappe is the wage. And according to this article I'm reading here, Mbappe's proposed move to Real Madrid has hit a block because of the wage. And I had a feeling this was going to happen. But Los Blancos and Mbappe are no closer to agreeing the details of the contract. That's why we haven't heard it. Here we go from Fabrizio Romano. We've heard that we've hit a roadblock. Mbappe wants to get this done. But is Real Madrid going to have the wage room to be able to pay this? Because Mbappe's going to have to lose some of the salary here. It's going to come down to how much is he going to be able to lose. And we've heard about the rumors of Liverpool and Arsenal. For some reason, they had interest in Mbappe, but they knew they couldn't pay the wage, even though it's England and it's the amount of money you'd have to pay Mbappe in England at that would be so drastic that I don't think it would be worth it for either club. But really, I mean, Madrid have courted Mbappe for some time, and we knew this could have happened last year. Heck, we could. I thought this was going to happen right when the podcast started in May of last year. But right now, that's the big situation, is that we haven't heard anything since. Right now, all we know is that Mbappe to Real Madrid was inevitable, or is inevitable. The difference right now is we do not know what the wage situation is like in order for Mbappe to go to Real Madrid. Now, let me explain what Real Madrid could look like if this move is done, because it adds one more incredible piece to their front three, because right now they play a triangle. So imagine a regular right triangle. It kind of looks like how my fingers are. So there's a player at the bottom, an attacking midfielder, or a lower number 9 with two other strikers. And usually, I believe how it is, it's Rodrigo on one side with Vinicius Jr. on the other with Bellingham in the middle. Now take Rodrigo out of the picture and replace that with Mbappe, and that's the situation you can get. You could possibly have 3 of the arguable 4 best players, young players in the world, in Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., and Bellingham on one club. How ridiculous that sounds. It does sound ridiculous. And the fact that they can get this for a free transfer makes it even more ridiculous. And it's also ridiculous that Mbappe might not have a team still before the start of next year. So you could just be balling out in the Euros and could want even more money. So if you're Real Madrid, you have to get this done before the Euros, which I think they're going to be able to do. The problem right now is if this roadblock continues, what happens next? And that's the one thing. We have no idea. This can go on for ages. All we know is that they have to get it done before next season starts. Or someone else can swoop in. Who's that club want to be? Heck, I don't know. PSG can come with a lump sum because they're owned by like half. Are they owned by Qatar? No, they're owned by a Qatari group. I don't know if it's like the main Qatari group. I don't know. But man, it's going to be crazy. We also heard of some other transfer moves. Let's just talk about some of them that I've heard. And one of them is with Christian Eriksen, possibly rumored to leave Manchester United for Galatasaray, because the Turkish window is open until the weekend. So that is possible of a move. We didn't really get a lot of crazy transfer moves this window. I mean, we heard some. I know Tottenham stole a move from Barcelona, I believe. So that was a really fun one. But right now, Mbappe is what everyone's to be focused on. But enough on Mbappe. We have more news in the soccer world, and that was from Sunday. That was the word that we officially learned where the World Cup final was. Now, I think I talked about this on the channel before, and the World Cup final was going to probably be at MetLife. It's going to happen. MetLife Stadium, New York/New Jersey, is getting the World Cup final, and it's getting met with backlash by fans, and that's totally what I was expecting. Let me explain what happened. So they released on a show featuring like I know Drake was part of it. Kim Kardashian I think was there too. Kevin Hart I know was part of it. It was such a weird. I didn't get to watch it because I had things to do. But right now, here's what we know: Mexico's getting the opening match. Do I like this? I mean, your options if you knew the final was going to be in the States was Mexico or Canada. Mexico is the bigger stadium. They're going to generate more money in fans. I think playing it in the Azteca makes more sense than playing it in a smaller stadium in Canada. Though I would have loved to see the opening match probably in Vancouver because that's the bigger field. That would have been cool. But opening in the Azteca, I'm interested to see how that looks. Or you could have had the opening match, just do the opening match in the final in the States. I also would have thought that would have made a little bit more sense. But having it in the Azteca, I don't have a problem with that. So now let's explain what else is going on. The finals being held in MetLife. And then the United States is playing games in LA, Seattle, and Los Angeles again. This part I don't like because you could play the matches at like 10 o'clock at night. I don't think fans want to stay up till like midnight on the East Coast to watch the United States. They probably will and probably have to. I just don't feel like that's a very smart idea. But to be fair though, are there better stadiums that you could have played for those matches? I think so. If you go southeast, Miami, Atlanta. I really like Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. I got to drive by it my parents drove by it while we were in Georgia over the summer. It's a really cool looking stadium from the outside. I bet inside's insane too. But they wanted to keep Arlington, because I was getting violated for this on Instagram on Sunday. I think Arlington would have been a better option than Los Angeles. The fact that they can now play games at 10:30 and even 11 o'clock at night on whatever day of the week these games are going to be, I don't think it was very smart. I didn't think it was that smart by the U.S., but they're already playing. Listen, they're guaranteed to get a spot in the World Cup. That's good enough for me to begin with. Seattle, I'm intrigued for because Lumen Field looks great, and I think with the history of how MLS stars like MLS, a big time MLS team, and the Sounders have been in Seattle for a good amount of years, and they used to be very good. So the vibe and the atmosphere in Seattle has been typically very good. So I think that's gonna be a vibe, and I'm very intrigued to see how that goes. But I mean, yeah, the world. Let's try. Let me try and find. Here's what we know. Atlanta. So this is how many games each stadium gets. Atlanta gets 5 group stage matches, a round of 32, a round of 16, and one of the semifinals is Atlanta. I love that pick. Boston gets the majority of the group, gets some group stage, around a 32 and a quarter final. We're going to be in Arlington a lot for the World Cup. They get the other semifinal. Smart call. But along with a ton of group stage, you get a round of 16 and a round of 32. Houston gets a good amount of group stage, round of 32 and a round of 16. Same story pretty much for Kansas City. They get a round of 32 and a quarterfinal. LA gets 2 USMNT group stage matches, along with a ton of other group stage matches. 2 round of 32s and a quarterfinal. Hard Rock gets a good amount of games as well. They get 4 group stage matches. The third place game, the quarterfinal, and the round of 32. MetLife Stadium actually gets a good amount of games too. They have 8 total matches ranging from June 13th to July 19th. Maybe I go to one of those games. Let me know if that would be a good idea. Maybe one day if I'm big enough of a YouTuber, maybe be able to stream record an episode at MetLife Stadium. That'd be pretty cool. But they get 8 games, 5 group stage matches, a round of 32, round of 16, and of course the coveted World Cup final. Philadelphia gets 5 group stage games in round of 16. Same story for San Francisco. Instead, they get a round of 32 instead of the round of 16. Where's Philadelphia? I got to comment on this. Philadelphia gets a game on July 4th, a round of 16 game. I mean, imagine USA England. What is it, the 250th anniversary? I don't even know how many years it's been since 250 years since 1776. The vibes are immaculate. I would love to see that. That's a great story. Seattle gets 3 other group stage games along with the second USMNT game. A round of 16, a round of 32. Then we go to Mexico, where we have three Mexico stadiums. I just wanted to make sure. We have the Estadio Akron, the Azteca, and Estadio BBVA in Guadalupe. In Guadalupe or Guadalupe, I don't know what it is. But Estadio Akron gets 4 games, including 1 Mexico group stage match. The Azteca gets a round of 32, a round of 16, 2 Mexico games, and 1 other group stage match. And Estadio BBVA gets 3 group stage matches and a round of 32. Canada actually gets a lot of games, particularly in Vancouver. Vancouver gets 2 Canada games, 3 other group stage matches, a round of 32 and a round of 16. And BMO Field in Toronto gets a Canada game, 4 other group stage matches, and a round of 32 games. So that's where all of the World Cup games are going to be. I'm very excited. It's going to be a vibe, and we still have to wait about 2+ years for this to happen. Let's continue on the soccer route. And we're going to go to absolute insanity from the AFCON and the Asian Cup, because it is almost time. Later in the video, I'd say 15-20 minutes or so, we're going to be able to predict the AFCON. Actually, Friday. Let me just break this down. Friday, I'm going to do AFCON and Asian Cup final, the Super Bowl, all of that on Friday. I also said we were possibly doing NHL stuff today. That's not happening. That's going to be postponed for a couple of weeks, just so we can make sure we finish all of this stuff that's going on currently, because it's a lot. It is a lot. To AFCON, and let's just go over the quarterfinals once again, because I don't remember where we left off. Yes, we left off with the Saturday games. No, we have 1 Friday game to go over and the 2 Saturday games. So we talked about Nigeria and Angola, how Angola had chances. Nigeria got an early goal and won the match. Then we had this disaster class, the DR Congo. Just beat Guinea. Nothing's making sense. The DR Congo have played the most boring tournament up to this point. They, before this game, scored a total of 3 goals. They've drawn every match up until this point. And they've barely beat Egypt on penalties. So how do they follow up that mess? By, I don't know, having almost double the XG of Guinea, out shooting them to oblivion, despite only having 37% possession. The unthinkable happened. Goals from Mbemba, Wissa, who had a penalty, and Arthur Masuaku sealed the deal for the DR Congo, and they're going to the AFCON semifinals, which is insane because, like I said, they didn't win a group stage game. And I'm going to look up this history up now because we love history on this channel. How many times have they made it to the AFCON round of or this far in AFCON? Let me find this. So we have to go to AFCON. They actually have won multiple tournaments. They haven't made it this far in the tournament since 2015, which is crazy to think of. Let's go over the history. So the history, they have actually won it twice, but not as the DR Congo. They won it once as Congo Kinshasa in 1968 when it was held by, I think that's Ethiopia. Yeah, when it was held in Ethiopia. And they won it once as Zaire in 1974. Since then, they've only made these semifinals twice. Once as when they first became the DR Congo in 1998, when it was held in I believe it's Burkina Faso. Yep, it was in the Burkina Faso. And then they went in 2015 when it was hosted by Equatorial Guinea. They finished third place again. They didn't qualify for the previous one in Cameroon, and here they are in the semifinals of an AFCON. That's crazy. I want them to make the World. Can they make the World Cup? Just as a thought. They've only qualified for the World Cup once when they were called Zaire in 1974. But other than that, they have not qualified well at all. But the DR Congo is going to the semifinals after destroying the Guineans 3-1. Two Saturday's contests, and this is where the weirdness continued. We had Ivory Coast, who I predicted to beat Mali, and I talked about how the Mali national team is good. I talked about that in the beginning. I thought they could have possibly been underdogs to win the tournament. They were almost made the previous World Cup. They're a very good team, and they had almost double the XG of the Ivory Coast. But what the Ivory Coast had, I mentioned it, and I said why they were going to win this. I said they were pretty level in terms of talent. The home field advantage was going to save the Ivory Coast, and boy, did it. Let's explain how this game went. So we started off with Adama Traore being Adama Traore and missing penalties, just like he does with Wolves, so nothing changes. And then we had Odilon Kosanou get a red card for the Ivory Coast, and all hope was lost. The game continued, and then we got a 71st minute goal from Nene Dorgeles, and like I said, people thought it was probably over. But then Simon Adingra, I don't know anymore. He scored in the 90th minute to level it up, and we go to extra time. And then we have a 120-minute goal from Umar Diakite. And then Diakite gets sent off, I believe, for celebration. I don't know what it was for. Actually, that was not Adama Traore. Hold on a minute here. Is this actually Adama Traore? Like the Adama Traore on Wolves? I just want to make sure, because there's a million Adama Traores. Oh, he plays on Hull City. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I said the wrong Adama Traore. But back to the game itself. There was a red card. Apologies again, ladies and gentlemen. For excessive celebration on Diakite. And then we had a red card for Hamari Traore for violent conduct. And that basically ended the match. And Ivory Coast went out and won the match. And they're going to the semifinals tomorrow to play the DR Congo. Two teams that you would not have expected to meet up on the last day of the group stage are here in the semifinals. The stories are immaculate. How did they get here? DR Congo went out and won on penalties and then beat Guinea. Ivory Coast played Senegal, if you don't remember that one, and had a late penalty by Frank Kessie to even get to this point, which led to a penalty shootout, which was won by Ivory Coast. And then this one was a mess. This game was a meme in itself. Cape Verde and South Africa played the most boring match for the first 90 minutes. You would think that. But Cape Verde had 25 shots. How many shots were on target, you ask? Two of them. Two. Two shots. Two of them. That's outrageous. South Africa had 16 shots. How many of those were on target? Only 6. This is why I said it was frustrating. I said it was boring and frustrating. No one could put a shot on target. And, well, what happened here? We go to penalties, and just a weird fact about Cape Verde, they've never played in an actual competitive penalty shootout before. Based on what I've learned very recently. In Cape Verde, let me just explain to you more about Cape Verde. One, it's a very beautiful place. The way they like portray the Cape Verde Islands, it's actually pretty nice. I'll give it that. But in AFCON, they've only made the tournament 3 times before it. They didn't qualify. They weren't a member of CAF, which is Africa's Soccer Federation, until 1994. They didn't qualify, withdrew, didn't qualify. They made it in 2013 and 2015. They made it in 2021. They made it to the round of 16. And then they make it to the quarterfinals. And they've never made it to a World Cup yet. But those tiny islands on the west part of Africa made it that far to begin with. So shout out to Cape. Made it this far. They've never played in a penalty shootout before. And it was one of the worst penalty shootouts you'll ever see. South Africa won on penalties 2-1. I'm not kidding. 2-1. And that was that. I mean, let's go over the shootout. Might as well. We had Tebow Mokoena score his. And then Willie Semedo had his penalty save. And then Zakele Lapasa hit the crossbar. And then Laros Duarte had his shot saved. And Aubrey Modiba had his shot saved. And then Brian Teixeira for Cape Verde scored to make it 1-1. And then the chaos continued. But then Mothobi Mavala converts his penalty in the center of the goal. And Patrick Andrade had his shot saved. And, well, oh my God, I have to I don't know what happened. I'm just going to assume everything went well, but the screen turned off. Technical difficulties if that happened, but just to reiterate what I just said, Cape Verde lost on penalties. They're out, and I don't know why this screen did that on my end. I don't know if you guys are going to see it on your end, but the screen went off. It went full black, and then my audio levels kept going. So I don't know. I don't know what you're going to see. But now we have our semifinals of Nigeria against South Africa and the DR Congo against Ivory Coast. So let's preview these games. We'll start with Ivory Coast because this game is miraculous. The DR Congo haven't lost the game yet. They've also only conceded, 4 goals the whole tournament. Ivory Coast conceded that in one match against Equatorial Guinea. But that being said, they've really rebounded after losing to Equatorial Guinea. They've conceded twice, but they've scored 3 goals, which was more than the total amount of goals they scored in the group stage, which was, for those that don't remember it, only 1. What Ivory Coast has been able to do is really excel with the players they've had, and a couple of players have really stepped up. Who are those players? I'm looking at guys like Seko Fofana and my guy, Frank Kessie. For those who don't know who Frank Kessie is, he plays for Al Ahly in the Saudi Arabian League. But Frank Kessie in his career, I'll give him this, you might remember him being back on Barcelona, or I remember him being on AC Milan from 2019 to 2022. He was on loan a couple of times, but then he went to Barcelona, which I think is how most people remember him, being bad on Barcelona. And now he's playing on Al Ahly, which he signed with in the summer, in August. He's been one of their better players. You look at a guy like Umar Diakite, who plays for Stade de Reims in Ligue 1. Like they have a couple of good players. And then you see the opposition, what they are working with. In the DR Congo, led by star striker Yoane Wissa, who actually plays for Brentford. And I didn't realize he played for Brentford till last week. because I've never heard of this dude. I never talked about him before. But listen, this dude knows one thing, and that's he actually really underscores his XG, which is kind of frustrating. But he's actually not playing that bad. 2 goals. He's on a 7.23. That's pretty competent. Arthur Masuaku, only 1 goal, but is on a 7.79, which is ridiculous. They have like other bit of competent players. They don't only scored 2 goals from open play the entire tournament. They've scored as many goals as open play as in set pieces. They're a very weird bunch, and I'm interested to see how they adjust to playing Ivory Coast. I'm going to see the Ivory Coast wins this match, and then it's going to get beaten up by whoever wins the other game. But shout out to Ivory Coast for in both the DR and the DR Congo as well. DR Congo trying to make their first ever AFCON final. Ivory Coast, the established veterans who have fallen off in recent years, they're trying to make it back to the top of Africa. And then we have the earlier game. We have Nigeria and South Africa. Now Nigeria have won 4 in a row. They've played well. And how many goals have they conceded the whole tournament? Also, 1. And they've beaten teams. I mean, they've beaten Ivory Coast. They've beaten Cameroon. They've beaten smaller teams like Guinea-Bissau and Angola. They've played every type of team you can possibly play. And that's a good thing for Nigeria. The problem is that they don't score. And it's actually pretty concerning. Let me explain. They've scored 3 goals in the knockouts. And how are those goals scored? You talk about, let's look at players to watch out for Nigeria. Let's just go there first. I'm looking at a guy in Ademola Lookman, who plays for another former or current Atalanta player. He's 7 goals, 3 assists with a 7.1 in Serie A this year, which is actually pretty good. He overscores his XG, which you always love to see. And in his career, during this tournament, other than against Guinea-Bissau, he's had over a 6.8 in every match. Guinea-Bissau, he looked pretty horrible in. I'll give him that. He basically did absolutely nothing, but he didn't really need to do much. Because in the knockouts, he scored all 3 of his goals for the tournament in the knockouts. 2 against Cameroon, and he scored once the game winner against Angola. This guy is turning up really big when they need to. When they needed him, especially, you love to see things like that. I mean, against the Ivory Coast, they had Trust Ekong score. They actually had an own goal in that game. And in this game, of course, I almost forgot to mention him. That's my mistake, ladies and gentlemen. Is Victor Osimhen has done absolutely nothing. Now, granted, did he get robbed of a goal in the Angola match? Yes, because of the offsides rule. I expect him to be more impactful in a game against South Africa, who have the best names in the whole tournament. And you're not telling me otherwise. South Africa, who's led by my boy Timba Swane and Evidence Magokba, Tabela Mokoena. He's also been great. Mafosa Modiba, Ronwin Williams having a great tournament in terms of rating. But Tapelo Mokoena has been their most complete player, a goal and an assist. And then you look at a guy like Timba Swane from the Mamelodi Sundowns. He's done absolutely nothing in the South African League, but to his credit, he's played great in the tournament when he's needed to. The problem for them recently is that he's been really bad in his last couple of matches. You look at the 0-0 with Tunisia on an 8.5, Cape Verde at a 5.8. Like, you don't get those results from elite players. But South Africa doesn't have an elite player. They just really gel well together. Because, 90% of their team's in the South African League. Like, Evidence Magokba, isn't Baroka in South Africa? Isn't this team in the South African League? Yeah, they're in the South African League. He plays for Baroka in the South African League, and they actually are really trash. But Evidence hasn't done much better. His ratings haven't been good, but his results have. So, this team is interesting. This game is going to be really fun. I'm saying a 1-1 that goes to penalties, and it's won by Nigeria at this point. But I don't be surprised if the final is South Africa against DR Congo at this point. Because this tournament, no one knows what's going on. So I'm very intrigued to see how these games go. To Asia, and a tournament that's made 0 sense. Because let's go over the games from the weekend. And then the match from today. Start us off, we had Iran beat Japan 2-1, led by a 96th minute penalty winner from, and let me try to pronounce this here, ladies and gentlemen, Alireza Jahanbakhsh. I think I got that right. He scored a 96th minute penalty winner after Japan went ahead. Then we had Mohebi score in the 55th minute, and then Jahanbakhsh, I said, I don't know if I'm saying that right, he scored the winner in the penalty for Iran. The Iranians are going to the semifinals of the Asian Cup here in 2024. Iran looked better than Japan for 95% of this game. Other than the moment where they scored, where Japan scored, Iran was the better team, which is really shocking to me because for Iran, you're probably not going to know half the team. Now, who do they actually have that you would know? Let me look actually, because probably no one, because Taremi got sent off. Yeah, I mean, actually no, that's not true. Yeah, I don't know really anyone on this team. For Japan, you should know some players. You have Takahiro Tomiyasu from Arsenal. You have Hikori Ito from Stuttgart. You have Wataru Endo from Liverpool. You have Hidemasa Morita, who got subbed off but scored the goal. He plays for Sporting in Portugal. Ritsu Doan, I almost said the other Doan. He plays for Freiburg in Germany. Daitsun Maeda from Celtic. You have Ayase Ueda from Feyenoord in the Netherlands. They have an established group of players. They just couldn't get it done against the Iranian national team, where their best player actually plays for their star striker, Osmuon, who had the assist, plays for. They actually have some competent players. Another Feyenoord player in Jahanbakhsh. You have Estalatahi, who plays for a team in like a lower league of Denmark. The defense, I don't know where any of them. Sepahan? Where the hell is this chat? I mean, and then, of course, I almost forgot. They do have some Iranian domestic players. That's a problem for Japan because they were probably the better team on paper and they went on and lost. And then we flip it over to the next game, which is also a lot of fun. We had Qatar draw Uzbekistan and go to extra time. And we let it off with Qatar not even scoring a goal. You had Yusupov have an own goal to put Qatar up 1-0. And then Komarobekov, Odijon Robekov equalize for Uzbekistan. They go to full extra time. No one scores. Then we go to penalties. And Uzbekistan missed their last two penalties and lost. The Qatari national team is going to the next round. Actually, make it a better stat. Uzbekistan missed 3 of their last 4 penalties after converting the opener. They lost 3-2 on penalties. Qatar, despite playing on a very similar level to Uzbekistan, if not getting outplayed a little bit by Uzbekistan, go to the semifinals of an Asian Cup. I believe they host. So, yeah, they host it, and they're going to the semifinals. Another host going to foreign and international tournament. Good for Qatar. They needed this because their reputation was in the bin from the World Cup. So then we had our semifinals of Jordan, South Korea, and Iran and Qatar. Iran-Qatar hasn't played yet. South Korea, Jordan did. And your final score, now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking South Korea 3, Jordan 1. South Korea 4, Jordan 2. South Korea winning this match no matter what. Final result, South Korea 0, Jordan 2. Jordan is going to the final of the Asian Cup. God, I love this tournament. I love it. People hate it. I got to address this as well. People don't like these tournaments because they don't know anybody. They think these tournaments are not as good as the Euros. Both of these tournaments will rival the quality. I mean, you're not going to see as high of quality, but the insanity is almost, if not better, than the Euros. Because you don't know anything that's going to happen here. Like in the Euros, you know France is going to go to the final because it's France. You know England is going to bottle it because it's England. You know someone else like a Denmark is going to do well in qualifying and then disappoint because it's Denmark. What else is a narrative? Italy, I don't even know if they're going to actually they're going to make it and look good. Germany is going to be Germany. You know this already. Africa and Asia are arguably better because no one knows anything, which makes it hypocritical that I predicted these tournaments to begin with. But I'm a sports analyst. I can call, or at least I can try to call myself one, who knows a good amount of the game. I try to provide the intrigue and interest to watch these tournaments by breaking it down and predicting this stuff. Were my predictions horrible? Absolutely. I didn't have a team go to the final. I was bad in tennis. I was bad in these two tournaments. Yes, I can fully acknowledge that. But these tournaments have been so good, I don't care. Jordan to South Korea nil. Let's break it down. 2 goals. The stats are going to really show this. South Korea had half the shots, half the big chances. Jordan had goals from Al Naimat and Al Tamari. And they outplayed the South Koreans. Youngmin's Son's 6.2. Don't play him at center forward. That's Hee-chan Hwang's spot. They moved Hwang to the wing, and that didn't work very well. And they put Son in the middle. Also didn't work very well. I mean, there's a couple recognizable players, I believe, on this team. Of course, you have Heung-min Son. You have Hee-chan Hwang. Isn't there like one other noticeable player here? You have Jae-sung Lee, who plays for Mainz in Germany. Young-woo Park plays for Al Ain, I believe, in one of the other leagues. You have In Boom Hwang, who plays for, I think this is Red Star in Serbia. They have some players on some recognizable teams. Heck, Kang-in Lee plays for PSG. How do you lose to Jordan with this team? Jordan's best player plays in the Saudi League, so that's actually not horrible. And to their credit, a lot of these players from Jordan, you won't know who they are, but they have players on Montpellier in France. They have, of course, the player who plays in the Saudi League. Like, a lot of these players, no one knows who they are. Half the players play in the Jordanian domestic league. And they went out and beat South Korea. That's amazing. I love it. While the South Korean league is getting possibly better with the addition of Jesse Lingard, this is embarrassing for South Korea that they lost to Jordan like this. Jordan advances to the final. Now let's look at another stat. And while I'm looking up this possible stat, because I didn't have it loaded up on my iPad, who do you have winning the Asian Cup? Who do you have winning it? Who do you have winning AFCON? And comment below what your thoughts were on the stadium selection for the World Cup. So for the Asian Cup, Jordan made it to the knockouts every time they've been there. They've never made it past the quarterfinals. They will be playing in their first ever major final. Final in the Asian Cup. They have played in their history. They haven't played in a final at all since, what is this, since 2014 with the West Asian Championship. They haven't won an actual tournament since 1999 with the Arab Games. And they've, in the last domestic tournament they played in, they finished 6th in the, I think this would be last, in the FIFA Arab Cup. They've never qualified for a World Cup. They're going to the Asian Cup final. And they will be playing either Iran or Qatar. Now, I know what you're saying. Iran should win this. No one knows anything. And, listen, this could make me less credible. And I wouldn't like to hear that, but this game is going to be weird. Iran haven't lost in their last 14 in all competitions. They haven't lost to Qatar in their last 9. Qatar also haven't lost in their last 7 games, and they've won every time. This game is not going to extra time. Iran is winning this in regular time. I'm saying it's 2-0 Iran. Iran's quality is so good. I know they're playing the host nation. But what we learned at the World Cup was that playing against the host nation in a big match doesn't matter. I know I'm contradicting myself a little bit from last week. When Qatar played Uzbekistan, I said Qatar was going to win because of the home field advantage. I say that because Uzbekistan is not one to be focused on on a major stage. Iran is, and Iran is winning this game. 2-0 is my result. Iran will play Jordan in the Asian Cup final, which is a gift for Iran because I think they're going to dismantle Jordan. That'll be fun. So the AFCON and Asian Cup is absolute madness. Let us now talk about the Premier League. And we're not going to go extremely deep into this because there's a lot of games and not a lot of time to talk about it because we have to talk about, I believe, 1 or 2 more small things. Oh, only one small thing. Well, that's not bad. So let's go into it right now. We'll go into the Premier League. Biggest results from the weekend. We had Tottenham blow it against Everton 2-2. We had Richarlison bag 2 goals against his former club, which is fair play Richarlison. He's getting right back on track. But Jack Harrison scoring and Branthwaite scoring a late goal gives Everton a very crucial point in this tie. Everton remains only 1 point behind Luton. If they lost, it would be 3. That's how big that game was. Now what game could have possibly put Everton further down in relegation, but Branthwaite grabs a late goal to equalize and get a 2-2 result. Looking at the stats, Everton was the much better team. They had almost triple the XG of Tottenham, but at the end of the day, Everton and Tottenham go out and draw 2-2 to put Tottenham, who are kind of bottling it. They're in 5th, 6 points clear of Manchester United. Other interesting results, Brighton went out and won 4-1, and they did it very convincingly. They scored 3 goals within half an hour with players like Lewis Dunk, Jack Hinchinwell, and Facundo Buonanotte. They also had to go from João Pedro, but Mateta got to go back for Crystal Palace, and it was a 4-1 result. Burnley, very crucial point against Fulham. Burnley now is still 7 points out of relegation, but it could have been worse. Wish they got more ground, though. This game needs to be talked about. Newcastle 4, Luton Town 4. They are not going down, ladies and gentlemen. Luton are inevitable. Now, Luton Town blew it. They did. Let's tell you how this game went. So Sean Longstaff scored the opener in the 7th minute. Ulshost got the rebound. Then Longstaff scored again. It was 2-1. Then Ross Barkley leveled it at 2. And then we had Morris get a penalty. And then Adebayo put it in the 4th. And it looked like it was going to be over. But Kieran Trippier scored. And then we had a late goal, 73rd minute, goal from Harvey Barnes to level it. Newcastle get a much-needed point. A point that actually helps them out a lot because they're only in 9th. A team that had the top 5 this year. 9th. Crazy. However, they're only, 4 points? 3 points off of 7th. 5 points off of 6th. And to make it even more crazy, how many points are they off of 5th? 11. But it's Tottenham, so they might bottle it. Who knows? But Newcastle needs to get right back on track if they want any chance of Europe next year. Any chance they want, they need to get it back right away. And I think they could possibly get it this week because they play Forest next. And Bournemouth before they have to play Arsenal. Difficult stretch of games coming up with Bournemouth and Arsenal because Bournemouth is not going to go down without a fight. And Arsenal away, we could talk about how hard Arsenal away is in a moment. And finally, we had Aston Villa run Sheffield off the field, scoring 4 goals in the first half. Fair play to Villa. They went out and won a very crucial game. Speaking of Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, they played each other and played out a 1-1 draw. I believe My iPad's loading up really slow. This is what you don't like to see in a college dorm. Your Wi-Fi being absolutely terrible. But we had Bournemouth draw Nottingham Forest. Now, I will say this. Bournemouth are playing way better than I thought they would be. But due to the position they are in the league table, shouldn't they be beating Nottingham Forest every day of the week and twice on Sundays? That's just a thought. Because, well, to be fair, Bournemouth did get a red card. That may be true. They scored an early goal from Justin Kluivert. Callum Hudson-Odoi equalized. And then they got a red card from Philip Billing, and that basically sealed the deal for the result. But you have almost triple the XG of Nottingham Forest. You should be beating Nottingham Forest. Come on, Bournemouth. They're better than this. They're in 12th. I said they could possibly get relegated at the beginning of the year. They're going to be safe. Unless they completely choke us away, they're going to be safe. But one thing we all know for sure is that Dominic Solanke is falling off a cliff. Let's look at his recent matches. Game by game. Can I find this? In recent matches, in the start of the new year, he has scored 2 goals since December 30th. One of them he's only scored 1 league goal in his last 4. He has had a match rating under 6.5 in 3 of those. The other one was an 8.1 against West Ham last week, 2 weeks ago now. This is concerning because Dominic Solanke is very good. He needs to get it back on track for Bournemouth's sake at this point. Because Bournemouth, they play Fulham next and then Newcastle. So that 2 matches that are possibly winnable for Bournemouth. He needs to step up in both those matches if they want any chance of winning them. The He-Chan Huang-less Wolves dismantled Chelsea again because it's inevitable at this point. But a hat trick from Matheus Cunha on a 9.8 match rating. The attacking midfielder from Brazil, who had a hat trick in the span of an hour, sealed the deal for Wolves to go out and grab a big-time 3 points against Chelsea. Wolves are now ahead of Chelsea. Chelsea are back in the bottom half, which raises the question, how does Pochettino still have a job? It's a weird question, and a question I can't answer. Because Pochettino, if this was last year, Pochettino would have been fired like Graham Potter was. But they're not firing him. And it's a weird call. And why I say that is Chelsea is playing better on the offensive side. It's just their defense is complete garbage. And I'm saying that lightly. Their defense is playing like a bottom half of the league club. That's just the reality of it all. If you concede that much, you have to be able to score goals to counter that. And they're really not. Now, granted, you were having a good season from Cole Palmer. That's great. But Nicholas Jackson's been disappointing. Sterling's been disappointing. You're not able to get good development out of certain players. This team is so frustrating. I'm done talking about this game. Manchester United. Shout out to them. They got a 3-0 win against West Ham. Good for United. I will say that, while I do hate Manchester United with a burning passion, they deserve to win this game. The youngsters are showing out. Now, people are overreacting to Mainu. I don't think you should. You could probably see why, but Kobe Mainu has played in how many matches? 9 with 1 goal. You could argue that's disappointing. You had a bad match against West Ham, 6.8. Garnacho carried. He had 2 goals. And then Højlund, who has played great as of late. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Højlund recently. Look at his last couple of matches. He's gone 4 straight with a goal, including games against Tottenham, Newport County, which people think is relevant because Anthony scored in that game. Wolves, and then he scored 1 against West Ham. Good for them. They went on and got a big win. Very concerning situation for West Ham where they outscored the XG their opponent and are now falling. They are now in 7th. Oh boy. The fall continues. And then we had this game, which is why I'm rocking the Arsenal shirt today. Arsenal 3, Liverpool 1. Now, just to address this now, statistically, Arsenal, beautiful match. I didn't get to watch any of it because I had ESPN work to do. 3.5 XG. Beautiful match. 0.37 conceded. The only goal we allow was Gabriel miscue, which is an own goal on Gabriel. Did we deserve this win? Yes. Were we better than Liverpool? Absolutely. The stats prove it. Did they miss a lot of big chances? I mean, they have a lot of big chances. Yes, they did. Did they miss a lot of big chances? Absolutely. This game could have been like a 5-6-1 match. I'm serious. Now, the questions I had going into this game is Havertz at the number 9. How is that going to look? 6.8 rating, but he had 1.05 expected goals by himself, which is ridiculous. Martinelli scored. He's getting back on track, and you love to see that. Bukayo Saka scored. Also love to see that. Then we had Leandro Trossard. He scored the other goal off the bench. He's playing great. It's just that, I don't know. You just feel like you're expecting more. I don't know. Maybe it's just me being an Arsenal fan at this point. But the criticism really was at the end when Odegaard was taking photos and really celebrating, and the Liverpool fans got salty about that. Saw Jamie Carragher and I think it was Roy Keane maybe were like, "Why are you celebrating like that for?" I cannot do a Scouse accent. All right. And to that I say, this is not from an Arsenal fan's perspective. Real quick, this is just an overall perspective. Well, one, you shouldn't have Liverpool analysts talk about Liverpool in a game setting because you might just see a sense of bias. But that's just my perspective on it. You can be mad your former club lost, but I don't have a problem with this. From Martin Odegaard, I don't have a problem with that at all. He's enjoying a win and getting the feeling that they're back in the title race. 2 points off of Liverpool with the same amount of games played. If you think about it, they're net 3 points off of first. Arsenal's back. That's not what I thought I was going to say today. But Arsenal's back. Big 3-1 win for the team. I'm really glad to see that. I just didn't like how some analysts talked about the game afterwards, particularly with Carragher. I love Jamie Carragher. He's a great character. Roy Keane, same thing. I just didn't like how they addressed it at all. Not because I'm an Arsenal fan, but because, it's a little bit unnecessary, no? For them to be commenting on a game like that after their club got absolutely dismantled by the Gunners. Just a thought. Finally, we had Manchester City dismantle Brentford. 25 shots to 9. I'm not going to talk about this one very much. All Brentford, they went out and won 3-1. All Man City, they beat Brentford 3-1. That was embarrassing. But, yeah, the Premier League this week was absolutely ridiculous. You had a FA Cup tie. Shout out to Coventry, Leeds, and Southampton. They are all through. Tomorrow in the FA Cup, you have Nottingham Forest play Bristol and Aston Villa, Chelsea tomorrow. I think Aston Villa wins that game, by the way. Don't be surprised if Chelsea wins, though. The weekend games, we get to talk about that at the weekend. Now, I'm not going to comment on the Christian Horner situation in Formula 1, because I don't think I should comment on something like that when an investigation's ongoing. So you're not going to hear anything from me on that one. Though I did just see is, that I still have on my iPad, is the return possible of Jurrien Timber. You probably haven't heard his name since July when he got, you haven't heard his name since August because he got injured. He tore his ACL. He was included on the Champions League roster for the knockouts. He was included in registration, which sent Arsenal fans crazy. Let me explain this real quick. What this means is that Julian Timber can play in a Champions League knockout. The issue is we don't know when he's coming back yet. Will he play against Porto? Doubt it. Will he play in the quarterfinals? Doubt it. You will probably see him in the semifinals if Arsenal get there, which is possible. It's also, some say, unlikely. I don't know. It's going to depend on the draws that Arsenal get, how good the team is, if they're in form or not. There's a lot of factors that can lead into a decision like this, or can impact what's going on. The fact that Jurrien Timber is included in registration is a very positive sign going forward. I would love to see him in March. Big time center back with versatility, very physical. He's also very fast, and that's why I liked him to begin with. I also want to be yelling Timber when he scores, singing that one song. I don't know, how does it go? I think it was from Pitbull or something. I'm yelling Timber. I don't know who else sings. I forgot the person who sings the song, though. I feel like a failure for that, but I really shouldn't. But Jurrien Timber possibly could be back. He was included in registration. Arsenal fans, calm down a little bit. We don't know specifically when he's coming back. There's not a date. There's not a specific thing yet for when Jurrien Timber could come back. Also, final quick note, there was an NFL coaching change. Offensive coordinator for Washington is Cliff Kingsbury. And it's not going to be Las Vegas, like I said it on Friday. Interesting. Thought I stepped on something. Very interesting from Washington. They let go of Bieniemy and they replaced him with Cliff Kingsbury. I don't hate it. I think it's a weird direction to go, but I think this move could possibly work for Washington. There's just so many unknowns, and I don't know what they're going to actually go out and do. Now, is it possible that I don't even know if they're going to probably let go of Howell now, I would guess. But there's just so many unknowns with this move for Washington. I'm not going to go into it very much because there's so many possible actions now of what can happen with Washington that there's just nothing I really know what to say about this move. I kind of like it. I think it's a better fit for him because the pressure is going to be, not as high. Because Vegas, you can argue, could be a dark horse next year if they make the right free agency moves. And Washington's far away from contending. So it's interesting to see where the Commanders go with everything that could happen in free agency. But we'll talk more about that when we get closer to March. And on that note, that'll be the final note from today's episode of the Robbie Basel Show. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you see, hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. Tomorrow is another episode of Into the Stands, where we will probably be breaking down the Super Bowl and more. And on that note, I'm Robbie Basel saying so long. I'll see you guys tomorrow on WIUR Gales Radio. Check it out with the link in the description. And I'll see you guys on this channel on Friday. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, everyone.